Pete Calandra here, and welcome to the review video for Class 1 of my Fall 2021 Audio MIDI 2 class. This is just the second half of the class, stuff I went over in the first half of the class. If I posted it up on YouTube, it would most likely get the video blocked. So I'm cutting the video in half and just posting this. Anyway, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get right into it. Now, we live like in a really amazing time for content creators in that we have tools that are available to us for not that much of an investment that would have taken hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and even in the 1990s. In your laptop. Let's say you buy, I don't want to praise this company because they do a lot of stupid things, but you buy an Apple laptop, you spend a couple $100 and you get Logic. The amount of content that comes with Logic in terms of plugins, instruments, software instruments, and other content. And if you buy a MIDI keyboard and a set of headphones, you could create in-the-box productions that would have taken you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars 20 years ago. And if you are good with technology and clever, and you learn how to use this technology in a creative way, it's very empowering. The problem becomes for me when people have, and I said this in film scoring yesterday for those of you that took that class, when people have access to all this technology and they focus in on the technology and they disregard the musical content. And, that's the thing that I think is kind of disheartening to me, that so many people are pushed out there in the pop music world who are talented, but a lot of the melodic content that they come up with is elementary school. Their harmonic vocabulary is pathetic. And their sense of orchestration is eh. But what they do really well is they know how to mix and they know how to create sounds. So there are virtual instruments inside of your computer, like Expand we have in Pro Tools. There's all the virtual software instruments, synthesizers inside of Logic. And also there's analog synthesizers. I'm not showing it in this camera angle, but I've got all these analog synthesizers here, which are amazing sound creation devices. But one of the most influential sound creation techniques today is sampling. And when I was really learning about this stuff that I'm teaching you in the 1980s, I thought sampling was really horrible, because my experience with sampling was using something called the Ensoniq Mirage, which is the Ensoniq Mirage was a keyboard. I think it had 61 notes on it. And it did 8-bit sampling, right? Not 24-bit like now. 8-bit sampling. And you stored everything on a floppy disk, right? So a floppy disk had what, 200 megabytes, 256 megabytes of sample RAM, something like that, or 512 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes. And as I said yesterday in class, the screen for it was literally about the size of this remote control for my lights, right? This tiny little screen here, and it was sort of set up like this. And there were 2 digits on there, a number and a letter. And it was called hexadecimal. And that's how you program this thing, using this hexadecimal language. And there was no YouTube tutorials. There was no college classes teaching this stuff. It was all, you tried to read these manuals And I'm sorry for those of you that took film scoring yesterday. You're getting a semi-repeat of this information. But there were the manuals were badly translated from Japanese to English, and it was a nightmare. And so I persevered and I learned, but it was really, really difficult. And so because of the limitations of the sample rate and the memory, samples back then sounded pretty bad. And I didn't think much of the technology, so I sort of stopped and I focused more on recording and mixing and sequencing with regular synthesizers and drum machines and stuff like that, and recording live instruments. Now fast forward today, and because memory has become so cheap, because processing power has gotten so incredibly powerful, and inside of a computer, like the computer I'm working on now, I've got 256 gigabytes of RAM in my desktop. My laptop back there that's on has 64 gigabytes of RAM. You can create some incredibly detailed sampler instruments that really sound great. Also because of the processing power inside of your DAW, whether it's Pro Tools or any other DAW, you can take these raw sounds that you've recorded and process them to create completely new and organic and unusual sounds that you can't get anywhere else. So what this kind of technique has, the way it's affected me and the way I want you to start to think about it, is that music is everywhere. Sound is everywhere. Music and sound that you can use to create music is everywhere. And it's only up to your imagination as to you being able to capture those sounds, treat them, and program them into sampler instruments that you can then play from a keyboard or program into your DAW. How many of you remember, did I play that bit with that guy where he did music from the dry cleaners last semester, where the guy was playing all these instruments inside of a dry clean, all the, not instruments, but like a press, the inside of the dry cleaning machine, hangers, and he was creating a whole piece by overdubbing the different parts of a dry cleaning store, right? That's kind of sort of the same idea, where he's taking things that you find in nature and creating a sound with them that you can organize into music. So, for example, give me one sec. This is just off the cuff. I haven't even planned this. But, okay, so I've got a drumstick here. This is a hot rod. I've got a slide for my guitar right here. Cool percussion instrument, right? It'd be really cool if I could record that into Pro Tools. I've got an egg shaker here, right? Well, what if that's interesting. What if I took a guitar, right? Got an electric guitar here, fingered a chord like this. Right? You can record a pattern like that and then play around with it, like you do it in time. And you can make that into something that you can create music around. I don't really have anything in here. Oh, I've got my coffee cup here. That doesn't really ring. Let's see if I can get it to ring a little better. Let's see if I hit it with this. So that's got a pitch. You could make that into some sort of bell, right? So eventually you're going to be making your own sampler instruments this semester, but we're going to get started with learning how to editing and creating instruments. So let me do this first. Got Pro Tools open. All right, great. This is Kontakt. It's a software sampler. If we were in school right now, this is what we'd be using. Pro Tools comes with a sampler instrument. It's very limited, but we can learn the principles of doing this with it. It's called Structure. The full version of Structure is actually a really good piece of software, but Pro Tools gives you a crippled one that creates some problems with us. I looked around online and I found two free, very good sampler programs. One is called the TX816 or TW or something like that. Another one is called Decent Sampler. But to program them, you need to have an accompanying text file with almost like computer code in it, you know? And so I tried that and I thought, this is confusing enough as it is. Let's just go with what's in Pro Tools and we'll just deal with the limitations of it. So one day I was in my apartment when I was living in Manhattan, and I took a bunch of boxes and other things I found inside of my apartment and I started recording them, right? And I made a drum kit. Give me one sec. Let's get this guy working. Anyway, all right, so I'm playing this on a keyboard right now. My keyboard camera's not working great. So that was a box. That's a drum. I'm hitting a drumstick together. That's a different box. That's the same box. A different box, right? That is my keys. I think that's a spoon, right? So I created a drum kit. It's a little dry, but if I added some reverb, yep, that is the keys. Okay, great. So that's one program. And then let me show you a couple of others. So these are some chimes I've got, wind chimes. Right, I just recorded each. There's 5, it's a pentatonic scale, the original ones. Right, I think those are the original notes. Or maybe there's 6 of them. And I just recorded each one of those notes and then I stretched them out between all the different keys. So that works out really well. And then I did some sound design to that. Right? That's those same chimes. And I played around with them in Pro Tools. Right, the same sound. I distorted it and put echo on it. right? It's a beautiful sound. So you see right there, I took that organic sound of chimes, which is very beautiful, and then inside of Pro Tools, I processed that same sound and created a completely unique instrument that I don't know where I could make that anywhere else. So this is a shaker from an aspirin. So how do you do all this stuff, right? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on editing our samples and naming them. So this will be your assignment for next week. Okay, so in this folder, right, the inside folder is titled from last year. I've got all these different audio files, right? So this is a bass melodica. There's a bunch of drum loops here, which I'm not going to play because they could block my YouTube video for you. There's some rocks. There's a metal can. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take that bass melodica, and then what I'm going to do is I'll leave this here, but I'm going to import these audio files. So go to File, Import Audio, right? Or the key command is Command, Shift, and the letter I. Brings up a dialog, and then I'm going to navigate to that folder, Samples for Editing, and I'm going to import, I'm going to convert, right? You want to either copy or convert. I'm at a different sample rate than the original one was recorded at, so I'm going to convert. And then I'm going to do the bass melodica. I'm going to convert that, and I'll do the metal can. So I have 3 different guys here, and I'm going to open that up. It's going to choose a destination folder. It's going to say audio files, processing audio. New track, session start. All right, so I'm going to mute the bottom 2, and we're going to work on the top one. So one thing that will really help you out with this is if you, let's get rid of Kontakt here. You put in mini grand just so you can know what the pitches are, right? Right, so that's, I know what that, I figured that out. That's an F. F sharp. Right, so I played every one of these individually. So the first thing we want to do is we want to separate all of these out as individual clips instead of one long file. So in Pro Tools, there's something that is going to help you with that. And up here on the toolbar, that's this guy right here. It's called Tab to Transients. Tab, T-A-B, to Transients. T-R-A-N-S-I-E-N-T-S. So click on that and make sure that that's blue. Then you're going to go to slip mode, which is right here. And if you've got, what tab to transient means is that if you hit the tab, you put the playback head a little bit before the beginning of the note and you hit the tab key on the computer keyboard, it jumps to the beginning of the sound. Now you're going to see that it's not quite at the beginning here, unfortunately. It cuts into it a little bit because this is a soft sound. But if I were to do this with, let's say, this sound here, hit the tab key, it goes right to the beginning. So it works really great with percussive sounds, but with sounds that fade in a little bit and have a slow envelope, it's a little bit more wanky. But you can get in the ballpark and then just do a little adjustments. Hit the tab key, and then up here in your toolbar, you might not be showing this right here. In order to see, that's the zoom in and out. That's located over here. Make sure your zoom controls are turned on. And then if you click on the top of that, you see that the waveform gets bigger. So now you can tell where the beginning of that sound is. So I'm just going to place that, I'm going to do tab to transient, and it goes it doesn't work. It goes right into the middle there. But I'm just going to readjust that over to here. And then I'm going to do Command E and separate that out. Or if you've got A and Z turned on, which is your keyboard focus, that's the A and Z up here on the upper right-hand corner, right up here, then you can just hit the letter B and it will do the same thing. So now I want to go to the end, and I want to get a little bit past the end and hit letter B or Command E, and then tab to transient. It goes a little past it. I'm going to get it right here at the beginning, and then letter B or Command E, separate that out, and then go to the end and do the same thing. So I can do this by eyeball myself with this particular one. Same thing. Okay, let me make this bigger so it's easier to see. So I want to delete all of these spots. So like this beginning, I'm going to just make sure that you're in slip mode, right? And I'm just going to highlight that and hit the delete key. It's gone. I've got this little section here, do the same thing. So these will become individual clips. Delete, 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 delete. And then I'll just get rid of this end thing. So now what you've got is all these individual clips for every one of those notes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that waveform is too high, so I'm going to bring that down a little bit. So there's 13 pitches. So it's basically a chromatic scale, like, yeah, it's just from F up to F. So the next thing you need to do is you need to create information in the naming of that file. Oh, the handy cam went off. Jeez, come on, man, what's up? Okay, so you need to create information on every one of those files that will help the sampler place it in its proper position on the keyboard for you to play. So what do I mean by that? Let me show you what I mean by that. So here's my Woodstock chimes, right? If I open the samples, you'll see that I've got the name, an underscore, and a pitch value, right? Let me make that bigger so you can see this. This is an icon of an audio file, the name, an underscore, and the pitch. So let me teach you about the pitch. The pitch is a letter and a number. Let's zoom in. Okay, so this is our piano roll editor. And if you notice, this is a keyboard over here, right? This is C, you got your 2 black notes to the left of that is C, you've got 3 black notes to the left of that, or to the right below that is an F. And you notice that there is a number next to every C. See that? This one says 1, this one says 2, this one says 3, this one says 4. So those are the octaves. Each one of those numbers is the octaves, right? So if I were to zoom out and get this back to regular position, so like if I were to pop a note in here, interesting. What is going on here? Why is it not playing that? Give me a break, Pro Tools. Why are you doing this to me? I've been very good to you. I haven't been cheating on you with Logic. All right, let's try that one more time. Let's do this. Let's do something else. Command-Shift-N, a new stereo, instrument track, track presets. Let's do Avid. Let's do Mini Grand again. Interesting. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay. So notice how I'm clicking on that number there. Jeez, idiot. How long have I been doing this? I'm clicking on that E flat there. And you see there's this one right here. Let me zoom in so it's a little easier for you. So you see there's one here by the C pitch, right? If I click on that, that is C1. That's C sharp 1. This is D1, D sharp 1, E1, F1, F sharp 1, G1, right? And then this is C2. And that's that pitch on the piano. And then this is C3. Right? And if I click here, that's E3. That's G3. So what you have to do is you have to figure out what octave those notes are in. So what you can do is, you know that that's low, and I know that that's an F. Right? See, so I'm clicking on that F there. And that's pretty close. So that is F1. So that I know that this is in F, this is an F1 octave. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to retitle this clip. Right? So I used the grabber tool and I double clicked on this. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to go bass, melodica, all with no spaces in it, underscore F1. Hit OK. And you notice that right here in the upper left-hand corner, that clip has been named. All right? So this is the next note up. So I know that that's F sharp 1. So what you can do is write the word bass melodica properly. And then select all, Command A and Command C, copy, so that you can just paste that in the next time and it's a little easier. Then hit underscore. So that's F sharp, right? Using the sharp here. And then the number 2. Number 1, right? That's F sharp 1. Let's just double check. Oh, hit OK. That's correct. Okay, so then we know our next one is G, because I tell them it's chromatically, so then I'm going to just paste that in, underscore G1. Then we got G sharp 1. So I'm doing all sharps, all right? I'm keeping it consistent. I'm doing all sharps. I'm not doing some sharps and some flats. Everything has to be consistent. The next note is A. So I'm pasting that in there. Bass melodica underscore A1. A sharp 1. Whoops. Then B1. Now, B, right? The next number, that letter is C, but it's C2 because we're in the next octave up. All right? So after B1, C is the second octave. So paste that in, underscore C2. Then this is C sharp 2, the next one, underscore C sharp 2. Then the next one is D2, underscore D2. The next one is underscore D sharp 2. E2. And then the very last one, this should be underscore F2. Yep. Okay. So that was really quick, but I basically did that. So that's what you have to do for next week, right? Is separate all of those, and I'm going to go over it again. Now, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to select them all. So I'm using the grabber tool, and I'm going to click on the last one, or I can click on the first one, hold the shift key down, and then click on the last one. You see they're all selected? And then the key command is Command, Shift, and the letter K. You will export selected. So those files are selected, and you're going to export those as wave, right? It's stereo, so it's going to be interleaved. And whatever you set your session up. This session is set up at 2448. You might set yours up at 2444.1, but whatever your session is, that's what you're going to set it at, export it as. And then you're going to choose your destination directory. So choose, and then I'm navigating to my desktop right over here, and I'm going to have a new folder. It's going to be 2 folders, and I'm going to go edited samples. And then today is 8-26-21 underscore my initials. I'm going to create that, but I actually want to copy all that if I can. I'm not sure the Pro Tools will let me. And then I'm going to do a new folder. And then, right, so I just pasted that back in, and this will be melodica samples. Okay? You're going to open, and then you're going to export. And then if we go here to, right, we see that we've got a folder on the desktop. I've got my melodica samples in there, and then you see all my individual little files. So there are a bunch of different instruments. Let me just do the, oh, right, let me do a one of those percussion instruments, because let me do this metal can. That's the green track. Now you notice this has a very sharp transient at the beginning. So this one tab to transient will really work wonders for you. So just hit tab, right? Then separate, which is either B or Command E. And then just go anywhere over here and separate that again. Hit tab, separate, then go somewhere over here after it ends and separate, then hit tab. And that's good. And then we're just going to delete what's in the middle. Oh, I didn't separate this one out. And okay, so I didn't do the first couple. So let's do this again. Tab, Command E, tab, Command E, and then just delete all this. So these are our clean little metal cans. Okay, so the concept with these metal cans that was a little different is that you want to set up an instrument that you can play and you can do some variations. There's 4 different hits here. So what we can do is we have to do a little planning here. We can either plan it out so that those 4 notes are on adjacent pitches chromatically like C, C sharp, D, and D sharp. Or if we leave a little space, right, what'll end up happening is that when you program these, so let's say you do C, you program the next one to be an E, the next one to be a G, and the next one to be a C. So you've done a C major triad. All those in-between notes will be transpositions of the original sample. So in other words, if these are unpitched, really, so you don't think of it in terms of you're playing a C note, but if you program this to play C, play on C, if you program that one to play on C and you play this note, and then you program this one to play on this note, when you play these 2 notes, which is C sharp and D, you're going to be playing a transposed version of this. So it'll be a little bit different pitch. So that will give you a little bit more variation in your performance. So let me do this and I'll program it really quickly and I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's name these. And let's do C. I'll do like middle C, so C3, and then I'm going to copy all that. And then we'll do this one as E3. G3. And C4, so that's the next octave up, right? And then I will do the same thing. I'll select all those and then Command Shift and the letter K. And we're going to choose a directory and we got to navigate back so that we're in our master edited samples folder. And we're going to do metal can samples 8-26-21 PC. Create, and then open, and then export. Boom. And then now my metal can samples are in there. Oh, I've got this. I don't need this. Let me delete that. But okay, so I'm going to do this in Kontakt. It'll be the same process inside of Structure, but I need to spend a half an hour, which I didn't have time to, reviewing Structure before I can teach it to you. But I know how to do this really quickly in Kontakt, but it'll be very similar. But I just want to show you the concept. So I'm going to pop Kontakt into here, right? And I'm going to double click there. It's going to. Oh, there we go. Create a new rack, and then I'm going to open up this wrench here. Oh, you're not seeing that. Sorry, my fault. Let me do all that again. Okay, so I've opened up Kontakt. I'm going to double click in the rack, and that opens up a new instance of Kontakt. I'm going to click on the wrench, and then I'm going to go to Mapping Editor. And then I'm going to go to my Edited Samples, Metal Can, and then I'm just going to select all those and drag them in here, right? Let me zoom in so you can see this a little better. So there's ways to do this that are automated, but just let me show you. So if I take this one as labeled C3, I'm going to drag it so that it's here. This one is E3. I'm going to drag it so that it's here. This is G3. I'm going to drag it so that it's here. And then the last one is C4. I'm going to drag it so that it's right here. Now, there is a way to automate this, but I want to show it to you manually. I like to teach that. So if I click on this and hover, I can drag the border of that. Well, actually, give me one sec. Okay. And so now when I play these on the MIDI keyboard, right? Oh, I have to record enable that track. Hold on. Well, I can hit it here, right? Let me... All right, so you can see these are all on one key, and if I play down here on the keyboard down here, they play on the blue keys, but not on the white keys, right? So if I were to stretch these out so that they encompassed, filled in all the space, right, then I've got... So, where is Kontakt? I don't have it in any of my things, but it's open.
Professor, I have a quick question.
Yeah, Michael.
What would the difference be between doing what you just did and saving each of those audio files as a different name, so that you have 12 different files and you name them like C1, C#1, C#2, or D2, D1, sorry. Because I know that in the raw file, you only had 4 strikes of the metal can, right? So you made them 4 notes. So what would the difference be from what you just did to saving 3 copies of each of those?
Oh, because
notes?
Of each of those notes, because I'm letting, that's much more work, right? Kontakt is doing all that work for you.
Yeah,
it's
stretching. Basically my question.
Right, it's filling in the space. You don't need to do that. The sampler will do it for you automatic. And there are ways to make it automatically. I just want to show it to you manually right now. So, that's...
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Ask questions, please. I'm here to answer questions. Something came up. I have to leave early. Okay, Richard, no problem. Yeah, so that's, basically the deal. So what I want you to do is to, you don't have to, there's a lot of samples in this folder here. Right. Some of these are drums, which I'm not going to play because it'll get my review video blocked, because they're, stuff from James Brown and Bob James and other stuff. But you can... How can I do this? I should show you how to do a drum loop. Okay, let's do this. Give me one second. Okay, so right here, right? I've got a drum groove, and I'm gonna commit this. All right, so there are drum loops in there, right? And let me just title this drum loop, drums. And we went over this a little bit last semester, right? I think we when we edited some of the drum loops and some of the same drum loops that we used last semester when we did some audio editing. So I'm going to go back to shuffle, and then I'm going to separate out each one of these hits. Right, just tab, Command E, tab, Command E. Whoops, no. So you just got to double check that you're at the beginning of. Whoops, see, it just goes right by sometimes. There we go. All right, great. So I've got this. Whoops. So I could get more detailed and get the in-between notes, the eighth notes, but I'm just doing the basic individual notes. So this is, let's say this is, imagine that this is God Made Me Funky, or Give It Up, Turn It Loose, or Take Me to the Mardi Gras, or any of these drum loops, Tighten Up. So let's just imagine that it's one of those, right? So I've separated all these out. So this will be drum loop. Well, it would be whatever the name of that was. Let me rename this. So I'll just call this drum loop. And then I'll copy all that. And this you want to program chromatically so that you can play it on the keyboard, right? So I'll show you what I mean. So drum loop, and then we'll do, let's say, C2. And then I'll copy all of this. Paste, and that'll be C#2. Paste, and that'll be D2. And then, come on, my man. And that will be E2, D#2. Paste, and this will be E2. E2, Brutus, isn't that Shakespeare? And then this will be F2. F#2. And our last one, I believe, will be G2. The Steely Dan chord. Okay, so I'm going to export all these, Command-Shift-K. And I'm going to choose, and I'm going to back navigate, new folder, drum loop, samples. And you're obviously putting your name at the end of these, your initials. Export. Great. And then cancel. Okay, so let's do this. Command-Shift-N. Stereo instrument. And then this will be Kontakt. Solo, and I'll record enable this. And there's an easy, you can just drag the samples into this one and it'll pop them in for you, but let's do this manually so you get the idea. So I'm going to drag these in, and I'm going to make these all as small as possible by dragging down. And okay, so let me just quickly manually drag these. Again, this can all be done automatically, but I just want to show you how I'm reading the names, because if you can't see maybe, but see how the name is right on there, so that I can see that that's D2. So this one should actually be D#2. So move up there, D2. Yeah, I wish we were in school for this particular, because we have Kontakt in all of the computers in the lab. I would tell you to go there and work in the school, but I think it's going to be like a mess to try to get into campus like at any point in the next week or two. So anyway, so I've got this all in here now, right? So let's do this. So see that? So I've programmed it to play the subway napkin in the back of the lab is probably still on the floor. No, actually, Claudia, I think that I've been told that they've really gone through and cleaned everything up. And last fall, I think in the end of October, I got permission to go on campus and I had to be all masked up and everything because I had some equipment in my locker and I had to, get a temperature check. And this is before vaccines and all this stuff. And I went into the music school and I haven't seen it this clean since it was opened. I was in the school. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And there were some students practicing. They were letting some students in, but it was really tightly regulated. They only had like a few people they were letting into the music department to practice. So hopefully they can keep that up this semester. So if you pick up one of the drum loops, then you would just edit out all the individual slices, right? You'd have to go by transients because this one was pretty easy. So that's what's due next week. So let's take a look here. There are, in this folder, 15 items, right? Pick 5. Okay, pick a couple of the instruments and pick a couple of the drum loops, a few of the drum loops, and just edit and name properly and export. Just like I did, and you'll have a nice. See how organized that is. Everything's right in there. You know what it is. Everything is just really it'll make it a lot easier going forward. And then next week, I'll study up on. I just have to review structure for a minute, and then I can teach it because I've taught it many times. It's just a little bit wanky, and I don't like to just dive in. But we're not programming yet. This is plenty of work for the first week of semester. All right. So you're gonna pick 5 of those samples in the sample folders, and you're gonna make 5 edited samples. They'll be in one master folder called edited samples, and there will be a subfolder for each one of these. Now you saw it took me like half an hour, and while I'm talking and explaining to do these 3, I could probably do 5 of these in about 15 minutes. So maybe it'll take you like 90 minutes over the next week to get everything together, which is, I don't think this is like piling on work for the first week. So that's what I would say to do for the next week. And I will link right as soon as class is over. I'll go on to Google Classroom and I'll put a link to this big folder with all this material inside of it. All right. So get accepted to Google Classroom so you can access all this stuff. And then everything gets uploaded as a zip folder, right? So for next week, you're going to take your master folder and make sure your initials are on it. You're going to right click and you're going to compress it. And this is what you're going to upload, the compressed folder. And then I'll go over it, give you some feedback, and then next week we'll go over treating some of the sounds and creating alternate sounds and the basics of programming sampler libraries. And then you'll work on that for a couple of weeks, and then you'll do a sampler. You'll do a project that's got 4 sampler instruments and 4 sampler instruments, and then some of the other software instruments. And it'll be kind of cool because, you'll have some of these samples, and maybe over the next couple of weeks, I'll talk you guys into recording stuff on your phone that you find out in the street, right? And maybe you can create sampler instruments from things that you pass when you're walking in the street, or things that are in your apartment, or maybe your one of your percussion instruments there, Andy. So yeah, so we'll get into that over the next couple of weeks also. But first, let's get into learning how to edit and properly name and organize your samplers, your samples. So I think that's more than sufficient for today. Any questions on that? Nada, right? So I'll go through this and cut out some of the empty spots, and I'll get it up on YouTube probably by Saturday, and there'll be chapters so you can navigate quickly by clicking on the link. You know what I mean by chapters in YouTube? So let's see. I did the film scoring class already. I do not need to hear myself. So if you look in the, I got a pinned comment, but also if you, oh, this is not, this is, okay. This is from last year, but if you look right here, see, I've got chapters. So if you click on the chapter, it'll go, let me mute this. I don't need to hear this. Making a living. It'll just navigate to wherever you want. All right. So you can just get, instead of having to scrub and try to find the thing that you're looking for. So if you want to find how to name samples, I'll have a timestamp in there that you can click on and you can navigate. It'll take me 15 or 20 minutes to do. It's not a big deal. So, oh, stop. Okay. So that's, oh, I was showing you me, not it. Let me do that one more time. Okay, so this is from film scoring yesterday, right? In the chapter, I've got all of these timestamps. So if I wanted to go to what is film music, I would click on that, and then you'd be at 1027, right where that starts. So that is the way that you'll be able to navigate back and forth very quickly. Chapters. Like I said, it takes me about 15 minutes to put them in. And it's much quicker for you guys. All right, so you don't have to watch the whole class, just the stuff that you need to see. Save you some time. So if there's no questions, I thank you everybody for signing up for the class. I think it'll still be not as good as if we're in person. Film scoring and audio MIDI 1 work really well online. This class, some of it works well online, but again, the live recording thing, not as well. But we will learn a lot of stuff this semester. You'll come out of it with skills that you didn't have when the semester started. Stay on top of this stuff. Do not hand in late work. Please do not hand in late work. If you're going to be late with your work, you got to let me know the day before. Otherwise, don't bother. Right? So, the last 2 semesters, I was very lenient with some of the students. I had students who handed in like one assignment all semester, and they're supposed to be failed. But I gave them incompletes. Incomplete is supposed to be for if you're missing a couple of assignments before the semester ends to make them up, but not like to make up the entire semester's worth of work. But because of COVID and online, I was a little bit lenient with that. And I think the department would have been okay with that, but please let's not make that this semester. This is the 3rd semester of being online. We should all have our act together at this point. Although with me sometimes, with my cameras and the switching, don't quite have it completely together. All right. Anyway, with that, I will catch you guys next week. Have a great weekend and stay safe and try to enjoy some of the warm weather. It's going to get cooler this weekend. So I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Ta-ta, my friends.
Thank you.